These are the test corrections for Math 4 Chapter 3 tests on October 16, 2015. Directions: show all your work in the space provided and box your answers. Question number 1 is multiple choice. Name the side of the triangle opposite of the right angle. Well, if you draw a right triangle, here's the word opposite, and that one is called the hypotenuse. Question number 2, multiple choice. In scaling triangle ABC, so I have no triangles, so draw one, ABC. The measure of angle B is 45. The measure of angle C is 55. What is the order of the sides in length from longest to shortest? So they give me angles and they want me to go to sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have all of my angle measures. I have 45 and 55, but I don't have this one. You can use triangle sum theorem, blank plus blank plus blank equals 180. You'll recognize that A is equal to 80 degrees. What is the order of the sides in length from longest to shortest? Well, the angles tell us about sides in this problem, or sides tell us about angles. So I'm going to list all of my angles from largest to smallest, 80, 55, and 45. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go opposite of those. So opposite of angle A, or 80 degrees, is side BC. BC is the largest side. I've eliminated now choices 1 and 3. Now I need the middle. So angle C is 55 degrees. Opposite of that is side AB. And that is my middle one. And therefore that would be choice 4. Question number 3, multiple choice. A lot of students miss this question. I would assume that this type of question would be on your final. In the diagram below, triangle LMO is an isosceles with LO is equal to MO. So if you don't know what isosceles means, they actually tell you the important information they want. They tell you the two congruent sides. So LO, there's my congruent mark, and MO, there's my other congruent mark. We've learned that in isosceles triangles, opposite of the congruent sides, the base angles are congruent. They call that the base angles theorem. Now I know they're the same. So on the diagram, I know that this is 55, therefore I can write 55 here. Now it tells me if the measure of angle L is 55, which it's already on there, and the measure of angle NOM is 28 degrees, which is already there, what is the measure of angle N? So they want this angle over here. Here I can do linear pair, blank plus blank equals 180, it's supplementary. The supplement of 55 is 125. And then I can just do triangle sum theorem, 28 plus angle M plus 125 equals 180. Or in this case, I used exterior angles theorem. 28 plus angle N will equal the exterior angle, which is 55, and you'll get 27 as your answer. Question number 4 is multiple choice. It says find the value of x. In this chapter, we started to learn about special right triangles. I have a square here. I have some right angles, and I have 4 congruent sides. There's a couple of ways to do this problem to find x here. If you know that these sides are congruent, you can call both of these x. And then you can use the Pythagorean Theorem because you have a right triangle. X squared plus x squared equals 10 squared. 10 is your hypotenuse. Combine like terms, that'll be 2x squared equals 100. Divide both sides by 2. The very last thing you need to do is take the square root. X squared equals 50. When you take the square root, you get x equals the square root of 50. To simplify the square root of 50, those factors are 25 times 2, and the square root of 25 is 5. X is equal to 5 radical 2. Another way of doing the same problem is using special right triangles. If you recognize that this is a square, the diagonals bisect, that means you have a 45, 45, 90. Hypotenuse is equal to the leg times radical 2. Well, your leg is an x, and your hypotenuse is 10. 10 equals x times radical 2. You need to solve for the variable x, so this is multiplication here. Divide both sides by a radical 2. You'll get x is equal to 10 radical 2. Well, notice that you can't have a radical in the denominator, nor is 10 over radical 2 a choice here. So you have to rationalize the denominator, which means you take the radical, whatever that is, and you multiply by itself. Radical 2 over radical 2. When you multiply this, you'll get 10 radical 2. Radical 2 times radical 2 is radical 4, and radical 4 is just 2. Can't see a 2 right here. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and your answer is 5 radical 2. Raise your hand if you think Pythagorean theorem was easier for that problem for you. Raise your hand if the special right triangles. Okay, the special right triangles, that's fine. It's definitely used more for higher level math. Pythagorean theorem is perfectly fine as well. Question number 5. It's going too fast for you. I'll be uploading this and you can watch it later. Multiple choice. Triangle has two sides that have lengths 8 and 14. Which length below cannot represent the length of the third side? So in this problem is talking about triangle inequality. We did that with a pasta. Do you guys remember that? Breaking up the pieces. You guys remember that one? So basically you have to do 3 problems here. 3 mini problems. You have 8 and 14 and the third side, which is an unknown. The 3 problems you need to do is that the two sides of the triangle must be bigger than the third side. If all 3 of them are true, or we did that one worksheet, you put all the checks. You guys remember that? If they're all true, then it is a triangle. If one of them is false, then it's not a triangle. 8 plus 14 must be bigger than x. 8 plus x must be bigger than 14, and 14 plus x is greater than 8. So there's all my combinations. And when you solve here, you get 22 is greater than x. Subtract 8 here, you get x is greater than 6. And you subtract 14 from both sides, x is greater than negative 6. X being bigger than negative 6 doesn't make sense because a side length can't be negative. So you eliminate this one. You're going to take your 2 inequalities and make a compound inequality. You have x here. X is less than 22, and x is greater than 6. You learned in algebra that when you write a compound inequality, all your inequality symbols are pointing in one direction. And basically what that means is that that third side has to be bigger than 6, but less than 22. So it says which length below cannot represent. So notice how 22 doesn't fit the inequality. 22 is not smaller than 22. 7 is greater than 6, so that is a length of the third side, but remember we're looking for not. And you'll recognize the other 4 choices actually fit the inequality. 13 is between this, 15 is between that, and 18 is between that. Question number 6, multiple choice. What is the measure of angle ACB in the diagram below? This problem is testing the axial angles theorem. Now remember, axial angles theorem you don't really essentially need to memorize. It's just a shortcut for linear pair and then triangle sum theorem. So let me explain the long way. Linear pair, or the supplement of 132, that'll be 48. 48 plus 54 plus angle C equals 180, and you'll solve the angle C is 78. Using axial angles theorem basically is when you have a triangle and you have an extended side there. This is the exterior angle, which is 132 degrees. The 2 interior angles are called the interior remote angles, which means it's non-adjacent to the exterior angle. So that'd be 54 plus angle C. Just subtract 54 and you'll get 78. Question number 7. Find the values of A and B. I recognize they've given me a right triangle, and it looks like they've given me a right triangle with just 60 degrees. Triangle sum theorem, that means this is a 30, 60, 90. Therefore, you have a special right triangle. Notice here you can't use Pythagorean theorem. The reason why you can't use Pythagorean theorem is because they only have one given side. Okay, so we have 2 formulas for a 30, 60, 90. The hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. The short leg is across the smallest angle, which is 30. So my short leg is 9. Substitute into my formula. My hypotenuse is B. Remember, it's across the right angle. So B is equal to 2 times 9, which is 18. That should be choice C. Blue. Yellow was wrong. To find the long leg is across the 60-degree angle. That is variable A. The formula is long leg is equal to short leg times radical 3. My short leg is 9, and then A is equal to 9 times radical 3. That side was 14 points. Back side. This problem is asking you to solve for R. It's a variable. If you notice here, r is the hypotenuse. You have a right triangle. You have two sides of a right triangle, therefore use Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, where c is across the right angles, the hypotenuse. So that variable is r. Your side length here is 2 for one of the other legs, and I called a to be square root of 5. So 2 squared is 4. A lot of students had difficulties with the square root of 5. If you got stuck there, I probably gave you 3 points. Square root of 5 squared means square root of 5 times the square root of 5, which means the square root of 25, which is 5. Or another way of thinking of it is the radical sign and the 2 there, they cancel, and you're just left with the radicand, which is just 5. 5 plus 4 is 9. Take the square root to get rid of that little 2, and you get r is equal to 3. That was a free response, so 4 points. Here's some work or an explanation of why radical 5 squared is radical 25 and why it's 5. Question number 9. Solve the missing angle here. In this problem, you have a straight angle. So I would use a linear pair here. Blank plus blank equals 180. A is equal to 70. Here I have 25, and I also have angle C. Notice how they have the same two lines for vertical angles, therefore C is equal to 25. If this is 25 and this is 100, then all three angles here will have to equal 180, therefore B is 55. Question number 10, solve for the missing variables. Leave your answer in simplified radical form. This is a 30 and this is a 90, therefore y has to be 60 degrees, therefore you have a 30, 60, 90. If cross of 60 is the long leg, so you have the long leg is equal to 9. I'm trying to solve for x here. So your equation for your long leg is long leg equals short leg times radical 3. Your long leg is 9 and your short leg is x. So it says 9 is equal to x times radical 3. Remember, you're trying to solve for x, so you have to divide both sides by a radical 3. These will cancel and you're left with x. 9 over radical 3 would be incorrect. You have to rationalize, which means you have to get rid of this. You just multiply by itself on top and bottom by 1, essentially. Multiply across, you'll get 9 radical 3. Radical 3 times radical 3 is what class? Radical 9, and radical 9 is 3. Here you can simplify. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 radical 3 is your answer. Now, notice how it says simplified radical form, therefore I have a radical in my answer. Okay. If you just got 60 degrees here, I give you guys 2 points out of 4. Question number 11, use a calculator to find the square root of 75 to the nearest tenth. So to make sure, even though you have a calculator, a way of estimating is using perfect squares. The perfect square between 75 is the square root of 64 and the square root of 81. The square root of 64 is 8, the square root of 81 is 9. So I know my answer has to be between 8 and 9. Now if you can figure out if 75 is closer to 64 or 81, it's a distance, or it's 11 away, and here it's 6, so therefore I know my answer is going to be closer to 9. It's a great way of estimating. If you put that into your calculator, square root of 75, you'll get 8.66 something something. Well, the nearest tenth just means one decimal place, 1 to the right. Well, that means I have to look at the hundredths. If this number is 5 or higher, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, then this number will go up. In this case it is, therefore the answer is 8.7. I gave you 3 points if you have the hundredths, meaning you left your number as 8.66, or if you didn't round correctly and you said 8.6, then I give you 3 out of 4. Question number 12, solve for the missing variables, round your answer to the nearest tenth. So I gave you this triangle here, ABC, it's a right triangle. I gave you 45 degrees and I gave you y, which means it's a 45, 45, 90. If you just filled in y here with 45 degrees, I gave you 2 points. The reason why I have a decimal there, it says round your answer to the nearest tenth. Means it should have a decimal. If in this problem I give you 3, 3 is your leg. X is also your leg, and this is essentially a isosceles triangle, so